Hi everybody, welcome. Rob Pravanshi here from NoBS Photo Success. I want to talk to you about some of the challenges that us photographers are going through in these trying times. And a large part of this conversation was inspired by the fact that my good buddy Warren and Paula out of North Battleford, Saskatchewan, have decided to pull the plug and close their studio down, more or less. And I was quite shocked when I heard that, and I don't know the details, so I can't really say a lot on behalf of Warren and Paula, but I will make some commentary and some observations. Now, for those of you who have been fortunate enough to be able to still run their photography studios, and you're pretty active in your marketing and plugging into your markets and keeping things going, that's great. But if you're like myself and my wife and people like Warren and others across Canada, possibly in the U.S., where you have been told to lock down, which I was in the last 6 months, haven't been able to work. Fortunately, like last year after we were locked down, when we got back into business, things just blossomed for us. I think a large part of what really determines whether or not you can get back into business is the nature of the business in your photography studio, and that's another thing I want to talk about as well. So we're into fairies and weddings. I've always been a wedding photographer, but more specifically a pop-up wedding photography business, which we started 3 years ago. So pre-COVID, we had already been doing pop-up weddings. So they're a really well-suited product and service that goes along with the whole COVID thing, since the wedding industry has been shook upside down. I don't know if some of you down in Texas or Florida or other parts of the U.S. or possibly Canada, I don't know if the big weddings are coming back. I don't see them coming back, if at all, anytime soon. So if you're one of the unfortunate ones who's relied 100% on the wedding industry, either as a photographer or as a hall rental or other services that are linked to these larger gatherings, you're going to be in a bit of a situation where you're probably going to have to get another job or go into an alternate business. But that's part of what I want to talk about insofar as Warren and Paula are concerned. So yeah, it's really, really challenging. There's a lot of pain. I'm just going to come out and say there's a lot of pain when you're told you can't work for 6 months. And for us, it's a good thing. It's a positive thing to be able to say, okay, now we're allowed to go back to work. Now we can start our events, and boom, we automatically start getting bookings and things comes back to life. However, the 6 months that we weren't working was not easy. That was not easy. That is no fun at all. So since the beginning of this whole COVID thing, one of my ideas was, okay, I need to know what's going on, and I need to understand, and I need to come up with contingency plans. That's just my nature. Anybody who's typically in business for themselves, that's pretty much the way you think most of the time. And you have to think that way because you're always solving problems and you're always going with the ebb and flow of your market and changes and what have you. Now, mind you, these changes were pretty extreme when you're talking about lockdowns. You cannot work. So I always thought of, well, if I had to get into another business, what would it be? What would that business be? And I don't like the idea of having to get into another business because I really love photography and I've worked my whole life at this and it works. When we're able to work, when we're running our photography business, it works. And it brings us a pretty decent living. It's never been something that I've been able to say, well, it works the same way it worked, say, in 1995, that it worked in 2015. It's always evolving. We're always changing and growing with the times. But anybody, like I said, if you're in business for yourself, you adapt. Adaptability is a really big factor. Okay, let's go to Warren and Paula. So Warren announced on Facebook he's going to service his current clients, not taking any new clients, basically getting out of the photography industry. So I texted Warren. I've known Warren for a long, long time. Warren is one of my favorite. Warren and Paula are two of my favorite people in the photography industry because of the way that they were able to build their business up. When others said, you can't do that, they did it, and they were very, very successful running their photography business. Very good at it and very passionate at it, and they had a pretty good market. Now, a large part of their market, as I understand, is the dance industry, so a lot of recitals, a lot of dance schools, a lot of destination weddings, And Warren did a lot of high school seniors in northern Saskatchewan, of all places, where, in Canada, I was like, high school seniors? Yeah, high school seniors. He does a very vibrant business in that, and weddings and families and whatever else. Yeah. But everything came to a screeching halt with the whole lockdown thing. So when I texted Warren, I asked him for a few more details. All he said was that he's tired. And what had happened was another business opportunity presented itself. So that's a good thing. Now seems to me like it's an exciting business opportunity. It's going to be lucrative. He's probably going to have to work really hard at it, but that's not a big deal. Warren is in his early 50s, and he's probably got decades of hard-working years ahead of him, doing something that he'll be passionate about. And probably is going to be pretty lucrative for him. I have every reason to believe that. Now, when you get into that situation and you find yourself changing from photography into an alternate career, I've thought of this, okay? I think one of the worst, most destructive emotions that we have to deal with is regret. Regrets, resentment, and playing victim. So that's why having a sense of gratitude is such a powerful antidote to those emotions. So I often thought, because I'm constantly thinking, this photography thing might not work out for me. It may go away. What else am I going to get into? And I've got a couple other business ideas that I've gotten floating around back there. But for me, and I'm sure this is going to happen with Warren, and I'd love to talk to him at some point in time, and that is not so much a fear of regret, but you have to reconcile the idea that you've worked your whole life running your photography business. You get into something else, there's going to be a sense of loss there. There's going to be a state where you have to resolve the fact that you're no longer doing what you've done your whole life. And your preferred option probably would be to run a photography studio. It's just that you can't. So you got to go to option B. I'm sure Warren will back me up on that. And who knows, maybe when 2-3 years from now or 5 years from now or whatever, we may look back and go, Warren might say it's the best thing he's ever done. But in the meantime, I'm convinced. Warren, I'd love to hear your opinion on this. Tell me what you think. The idea of giving up your photography thing is going to present some unique challenge. It's not going to be a roadblock, but it's going to be a challenge where you have to reconcile and say, I no longer do this full-time as my main source of income. Everything that I've worked for, my photography business, my photography studio, is going away. I now do this new thing. And it doesn't matter what that new thing is. I have a sense that it does involve working for yourself, which I feel is a really important thing. But more importantly, in the last 6 months for me anyways, was not being able to work was emotionally, mentally very, very draining, because it was like, man, I should have gone out and gotten a job at Tim Hortons or something just to get up and do something every day. And to have a purpose, have a sense of purpose. You're doing something every day. So it almost feels like there's an attack on small businesses, because I read an article, and I've heard this in multiple places, that 40% of small businesses are gone. Probably mostly restaurants and similar. Gone, never to come back again. So that's tragedy to me. I didn't think it was going to happen for most photographers, but there it is. It's something I've thought about, haven't had to apply yet. And obviously Warren and Paula have made the decision to pull the plug. They're fed up. They're moving on. Awesome to have an alternate opportunity to pursue. And to pursue in the name of being able to work, in the name of being able to still earn an income, and to pursue something that we feel close to, that we feel passionate about, even though it's not photography. So yeah, so I'd love to know your opinion on this and your thoughts on this. If you can just go down and hit the comments there and tell me what you think. It's a challenge. It's a challenge for photographers. We're in that market, and again, it's different. I think it depends on where you are geographically, and it also depends on what markets you're into. So if you're primarily 100% a wedding photographer, you're kind of screwed. If you're 100% an event photographer and all of your events are gone, you're kind of screwed. I know photographers like Maria down in North Carolina. I think it's North Carolina. Anyways, she's down there and she does portraiture, beautiful work, and she does amazing, amazing work. I know people like Maggie down in Oakville, but she's like us. She's been locked down. I can sense in her voice that she's very, very frustrated. And who knows how she's going to resolve this and or move on. She's the kind of person who is just brimming with optimism, so she'll probably figure something out. But yeah, I was shocked when I heard this about Warren and Paula, because they're beacons of light in the industry, in my opinion, and now they're moving on to something completely different, and hopefully something better, at least in the sense that it becomes something that is resolved in their minds and reconciled, so you come to a good place. So we all got to deal with it. It's our reality these days. It's a struggle. The struggle is real, and we just have to adapt. However, we have to adapt, whatever that means. We have to find ways to adapt, because it's part of what being in business for ourselves is all about. So, okay, let me know what you think. Take care, guys.